Okay, I've now got the headset on, and I'm in the level editor. I'm now talking through the headset microphone, so it might sound a little bit different. If I bring up my hands now, you can see that I've got these two controllers, both of which have some little icons on them, and we'll be using these to control the editor. The left hand is more of a menu, with some different buttons that represent the different tools you can use, and the right hand has the actual tool on it. One of the really cool features of the Roomscale VR editor is that you can actually walk around in the real world, and it will convert your real world position into the in-game position. Unfortunately, due to room size restrictions, your room probably isn't big enough to cover all of PEI, so with the movement tool, you can resize yourself and teleport around. So if I make myself as small as I can be, oops, I'm now about the size of an unturned player. I can teleport my way around the level, which I guess I might be teleporting a little bit quickly. It might look that way on the video. You get used to it pretty quickly, or so it would seem. One thing I found is kind of funny about this is just the scaling of all the objects in the world. For example, if we head over to these tables, I had no idea that they were quite this tall, or just quite how tall all the characters in Unturned are. I actually had to scale myself up by about 25% to make it feel natural walking through the doorways. So if we make our size bigger, then we can actually walk around the map as a whole and then scale ourselves back down where we want to be, and maybe ignore the fact that there's a moon floating above the ground right there. That's, yep, no longer there. So maybe we'll go visit the bunker. So if we're standing over top of it right now, and I scale myself down, I'll stay in the same position, but I'll get smaller. Right now I'm kind of a medium size, and we can head on over here. Might recognize this location, and we can go down into the bunker. One of my favorite things about the Roomscale VR is being able to actually lean around objects. So right now I'm standing here, but I can tilt my head to look over the edge there. And we can head down. So on to the actual editing aspect of the editor. If we select this little cube at the top, we're now in the object editing mode, which has some new options on the right hand, as well as a bunch of new buttons on the left one. To start off, maybe we'll look at some of the selection tools. So I'll just teleport my way over to this counter here. Maybe we want to move the counter forward, or okay, we're going to start with putting down an object. I'm going to swap over to the laser tool, which is similar to pressing E in the editor to spawn an object. And so you can see on the left hand now, I've got a list of some of the assets in the game. I do have a search feature integrated, and it should work as far as I know. Unfortunately, there's a bug right now with Steam VR that's causing some issues with the keyboard. So for now, I'm just going to scroll through some of these models, see if we can find something appropriate. Let's see here. Oh, a coffee machine. That looks good. So I'll just grab that, and if I click here, you can see I've got a coffee machine. I can now swap to the rotate tool, and then drag the rotate handle in the real world to rotate it on the counter. I've also got the snapping tools integrated, and this is something I'm pretty happy with, is when you drag the edge and you hold the grip button, it'll snap it, and it uses the haptic feedback for every slot you snap it into. So it feels kind of like maybe when you're dragging a zip tie, and you can feel the little slots snapping into place. Now I've gotten a good rotation. Maybe I'll put it over there. So I'll swap over to the transform tool, and then I can grab these transform handles just like in the normal PC editor, get into a good position. One thing I might want to do in the future is make it so it moves some of the other handles to the side closest to you, since right now I'd have to teleport and stand on the counter if I wanted to grab those. And then of course snapping works with that as well, if we needed it to. You can also select and deselect multiple objects at the same time. It just works based on whether there's anything within this sphere we can resize it to. Just deselect them as well, or we can deselect everything at once. We can also change the size of the snapping. There's a few predefined ones. I figured you didn't want to open the virtual keyboard every time you want to change the snapping values. And we can also change the coordinate system, so we can use local coordinates or global coordinates. One of the tools that really takes advantage of the VR aspect of it is the hand tool, which allows you to actually pick up objects and move them around like you're carrying something in real life. Don't worry about how shaky it is. That's mainly just the fact that I'm pretty shaky in real life. And so if I don't have any velocity and when I let go, it will just float there. Maybe if we're moving something like a telephone pole. But if you actually want to physically throw it, or in this case drop it onto the table, you can just apply a bit of force and there we go. I think this will be really useful for if you're trying to do something kind of apocalyptic. That's one issue I found on some of my maps is it takes a while to put everything in a nice believable position. So we can just like toss this off the counter, let it fall on the ground. And that of course works with everything. We can even go pick up one of these barns and just give it a toss across the map. And it seems we accidentally picked up a few other objects in the process, but that's okay. We're probably not going to save these changes. See the barns over here. It's also kind of fun to just go into a big location like this and pick up a bunch of objects and throw them all at once. Maybe we'll pick up this diner. Whoop. Definitely saving this. You'll just come in on the next update and see all this rubble everywhere. I think the military base was also quite a bit of fun to throw around. Oh, you'll also notice that some of the objects appear as you go to the location. I've done my best to make it so the editor runs really well for VR. On PC in the editor, I get around 120 FPS, but because it does the stereoscopic rendering in VR, it has to be a little bit higher than that. And so I would recommend you turn off foliage and reflections. The foliage, because it seems there's a few weird issues with the terrain, and so that means that when you were going between locations, it would take a while to load it. I'm not sure if Unity's got any plans for some more options for the terrain, because there was another issue, which is that the terrain painting brush also doesn't work very well because it has to regenerate the base map every time you paint a new texture, every frame. And so to get around that right now, if you go into the terrain tool, you can just bake the materials either locally or globally, just like in the editor. The functionality for painting on the terrain is ready-ish though, so if they do provide some options for that, it'll be in. And I got a little bit sidetracked there. I think we were originally going to throw some of these objects. I'll make the brush nice and big and grab all this. A little bit of lag there as we grab it and toss it right up in the air. There we go. You can see the tank just floating through the air there. Now that is pretty spectacular. Okay, we also have a few other tools integrated in here, so you can use the resource tools to place down a couple trees. Maybe we're doing the holiday level and we want to put on some festive trees. We can also remove them. Just delete them. You don't have to select them like the objects tool. Then roads, those are all in here. Most of these features work exactly the same as the PC editor. We can pick this road tile. Maybe we want to move it. So we move it and do it correctly. There we go. It's a lot more intuitive to use it like a laser pointer than it is to drag it around on PC. The lighting is also integrated, so you got a few different options here. And if I just drag my thumb, we can do full day-night cycle. Maybe we want it to be dusk and change the moon a bit. See how it would look. And we can also make it a bit snowy, raise the snow level, lower it a bit. Put that back down to 0. Water level, can of course raise that and lower that as well. And then here I'll make it daytime so we can see again. There we go. We can use the terrain tools, and so those work. This is one of the things I do like about the dual stage triggers as well, is it means that with the terrain tool, rather than adjusting a height slider, you can adjust how hard you pull it, change how much you're bringing it up. So right now I'm just kind of pulling a medium amount. Maybe I'll increase the brush size so it's not quite so jagged. But right now I'm pulling a medium amount, and you can see it's increasing fairly slowly. Whereas if I just pull as hard as I can, we get very tall mountain. And we can of course like smooth that out a bit. There we go. Probably want to adjust the roads then too. Not quite perfect. Let's see. We've also got all the copy and paste tools in here. If you want to copy and paste your buildings, copy and paste transform. On PC, that's Control B and Control N, which I don't think a lot of people know about right now. Been in the game since the preview branch first came out, which is kind of funny. Okay, I think that about wraps it up. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it. Can't wait to see what you think. And if you give this a try in VR, let me know. If you have any feedback, I'd definitely love to hear it and see if I can improve things.